let's get it.
Welcome to the April edition of our event training. I'm Heather Cook. I'm one of the stakeholders of the MGCI program. I'm here to support our wonderful subcommittee leads and board members, Sharon Weaver and Wes Preston. Sharon is not here today. I heard it was her birthday, and I think she's maybe doing something fun. So happy birthday, Sharon. And so, yeah, we have Wes here today to talk about all kinds of goodness as far as event venues go. Just to go over our digital code of conduct real quick, these are all safe spaces for us to have conversations, and, please raise hands. You can come off mute. You can ask questions, all of that. This is a very open forum. But just be kind to each other because we like that to be the way as we do all of these. Our MGCI mission, we feature amplification, training, blogs, networking, technology and tools, best practices, and to help people like yourselves who are producing events and technical skilling and all of that out in the world to help you do those things in a more efficient and better way, hopefully, with some support. And again, introduce yourselves in chat. What's your name? Who are you from? Are there any events that you have coming up? What's a link to your LinkedIn profile? Love to see all of that. So thank you for doing that already. Wes and Sharon are the awesome leaders of this subcommittee, and myself, Caroline and Brian work on the MGCI every day. And with that, Wes, I'm going to hand it over. So, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm just going to, we talked about this, Sharon and I talked about this the last a couple of times, is that we're trying to make this less of a, presentation, us, throwing stuff out there as much as it is a talking points. We're going to throw stuff out there, and if people have questions, hello, Hal. Just kind of take those as we go along here. It doesn't have to be wait till the end. So we're talking about venues, finding venues, picking venues, and all the stuff that comes with it. And all that's anything that's included there. So when we first started doing ours, the first thing that we wanted to do is, hey, we need to find a free one, right? That's when your events are starting up. We wanted to find a place that was going to be easy to use, that people were used to, free if possible, right? So when you're starting out, it's usually a smaller event. So you can find small spaces that don't have to have too many rooms, that you can kind of start from. And a lot of us start from those Microsoft facilities. So that's usually the first question that we get. We get this, I think, almost every week or almost every month when we have our training and office hour sessions. So I've got a slide coming up here in a second, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So Microsoft facilities are easy ones to consider. The challenge for most folks is figuring out how to engage with that group. That's what we've got on the next slide, which is Heather's got a form, a request form, so that we can figure out, one, who your contact person is, and two, if you can request dates and all that fun stuff to see what's available and when. If Microsoft facilities aren't an option for you, there's a lot of other things that are out there. Vendor spaces. So in many cases, when you're first kicking off events, you're usually doing it partnered with a vendor, hopefully several vendors. And if they have some facilities that you can use, that you can leverage, that's a great place to start too. As your events grow, or even still when you're doing smaller events, community colleges and universities tend to be good ones to consider as well. I've been running one here in Minnesota since 2008. And the vast majority of the years that we've run events here, they've been in community colleges and universities. And I think we started out in a training facility, so that was a partner, so that was a vendor partner. But then I want to say we only did that 1 year. And then after that, we were at the University of Minnesota for a while. We were at a community college on one side of town, and now we're in a community college on the other side of town. So those are good ones to look into. That doesn't mean they're free. Some universities will offer that as a free option, but There's usually a cost associated with that, with colleges and universities at this point as well. And then there's convention spaces, right? And we start talking about larger events. Those are the formal convention spaces, and those are going to cost a pretty penny. Those are spaces, those are commercial spaces that's their purpose. So if your event is large enough, it's usually not going to be considered I shouldn't say usually, it's in many cases not going to be a community event at that point. It's a commercial event. But those are still things that you can take a look at. So Heather slapped together, I shouldn't say slapped together, that kind of minimizes it. Heather brought us some great information on engaging with the Microsoft facilities. So that's something that like I said, we get questions on this quite a bit because, hey, this is a Microsoft community. And if we can use those spaces, that's a great place for us to start. Historically, we've done our user groups at Microsoft Spaces because it's usually one room, a nice big room with all the tech that we need, and for one point in time. The challenge when it comes to when we usually run these larger community events is that we usually have multiple rooms running at the same time. That's where we ran into challenges using our Microsoft venue, is that they've got one or two really great spaces, and then they have lots of smaller spaces. So if you can make your event work in those, that's fantastic. But if you need more space, larger rooms, that type of thing, that's what got us to move into some other venues. So, but if you need to request a Microsoft space that's near you, we've got a link here on the bottom of the slide, and Heather just posted it, or is going, nope, that's a different one. But we'll get it into the chat. But if you want to request a venue, that's going to be the way to go. There it is. Excuse me. And these are great places to go, right? Because people are already associating it with Microsoft. You're going to have a lot of other people that will just be in and around that space that will likely contribute to your conversations and to your events and all that fun stuff. Heather, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was going to step in with some caveats as well, and also some good things, because there's both. Russ is correct. In the chat about facilities can only be booked a certain amount of times in advance. Here's what I'll tell you about Microsoft venues. So I do look at all the form requests that come in, and I try really hard to work with folks on helping with this piece. What I will say about Microsoft offices is that, one, a lot of them closed in the last while after COVID, the main pandemic, and a lot of the rules changed. There were so many events that were happening on the weekends, like SharePoint Saturdays happens on a Saturday, right? Most of the time now, weekdays only. Microsoft Office are no longer really staffed on the weekends. So most people who had a Saturday event, a lot of times are putting it on a Friday. As an example, Tom Daly, who many of you know, who runs the Community Days New York City, that used to be a Saturday. It's now on a Friday. I put a venue request in for him for that space in Times Square recently. So, and that event is usually the last week. It is the last week of July always. Few other things about it. Sometimes there's not a Microsoft Office close to where you are, so you can't request it anyway, right? But those that have them, we just did an event in the Microsoft Phoenix office. It only holds between about 80 and 100 people. And just like Wes was saying, sometimes there's like a big, nice room to have a keynote in, but then there's smaller rooms, maybe that would be 10 or 12, like a boardroom, maybe have another room that's like 40 people. So it's hard to sometimes have you get your keynote, but then to do like a breakouts, even doing like, say, 2 runs of keynote or breakout sessions in 2 separate rooms, you might not have the right kind of combo of rooms. So that's, and honestly, I don't know every room by heart, or every office by heart, but I definitely can go kind of search and look. So I'm always happy to, help and sort through a venue request to see if it's the right thing for you, a particular office. I did put the link into the worldwide addresses for each of the offices. It's pretty up to date. The other thing I will say about Microsoft offices, they are great. They're usually free for the space. But there are charges that would need to go in your event budget, usually for security, depending, they'll charge you for. Catering, absolutely, and always they charge you for. Event insurance, that's separate. You have to have your own event insurance policy. Any extended AV, anything that's not there, a dedicated person, if you wanted that. Air conditioning. I know there's a lot of these little fees that come up. So anyway, yeah, I think I have a couple of requests in right now that I need to actually deal with that I haven't. But please take a look at that worldwide list if you're looking for space. If it fits in the budget and then the configuration fits, I'm happy to help with that. Typically, you need a local Microsoft person to be the sponsor, to let you in and to be there during the event as well. So that's also something that a lot of people may not have. I always try and help to figure out who that is, but it's better if you potentially know somebody in the area that can be that person, because we can put them on the request and they can help facilitate as well. So I don't know, hopefully that's helpful. A few caveats, unfortunately, but a lot of times, like we do LA. I know that one really well. We live here. We just did Phoenix. But sometimes a college or another Microsoft partner or a training partner or other people, they actually have really nice facilities sometimes, depending locally. So those are also options as well. So
yeah. I found that the training partners, which at least here in Minneapolis, we've kind of lost a bunch of those for whatever reason, but those are great ones to look at. A couple of thoughts just on your notes, Heather, were one, like our local, we've got an MTC, which is slightly different than some other Microsoft offices, but they're great for like when you're first starting your event and you're going to say, hey, we're going to have a full day event. But we're just going to do it in one room, right? We might just have 4 different sessions throughout the day. That's a great way to start your event. It's a great way to build your audience. And then when you maybe do that once, twice, a couple of a few more times, and then graduate and kind of move out to a larger space. There's a lot of benefits that come with doing that. So that it's almost like a subtopic we could almost have one of these days. Heather, is kind of like event maturity, right? How they change over time.
Yeah, for sure.
If they stick around. And we've talked about things like our group came from a user group. We started as a user group, and finally someone said, hey, let's just do a day and let's build it, out. So as things mature, they change, right? Yeah. So Russ mentioned the 3 months out. That's a pretty tight time frame, right? So depending on your event size and your audience, figuring out who your speakers are and all of the other stuff that you have to figure out for an event, 3 months is a really tight timeline. So that's tough. You mentioned Microsoft offices are we can't use them on weekends. And that was a problem when we were SharePoint Saturdays. Now that we're doing community days, and some of us, I'm hesitant to say many, but some of us are sliding into Fridays. That opens that door a little bit. But you also have to remember that's a working Microsoft office, right? So they're doing stuff there. They might be hosting things. That used to be a killer for us, for my particular event, because we were working at community colleges. So you can't do it at a community college when they're in session and when they're in classes. I happen to have found one where their Fridays are light for some reason. So that worked for us. So those are just a couple of other comments on the stuff that Heather brought up.
Yeah. Thank you all for putting experiences in here in the chat. That's great. Cause and again, this stuff changes all the time. Like I literally go to the website to do some of these things and I'm always like, oh, okay, that's new. That's different. All right. So Miha, there's a fee no matter what in Poland.
Yes, we have a fee for the office because, as you said, we need to cover the security part and probably some maintenance, because Microsoft in Poland is also renting this office from the landlord. So it is not their own. So anyway, we need to pay for it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And Mate say, bank. We do. Oh, your roadshow for your meetups, different office. bank HQs, big companies, partner offices. Yeah, definitely. It's kind of sourcing. And yeah, that's interesting, moving around. I'll say one more thing about Phoenix before we move to the next slide. So we ended up using the Tempe office, and the Microsoft office was upstairs. And so we used that. They have one bigger room and then a few smaller rooms. But then what was interesting is that so the folks that put on the event were not the same folks as people who were running a user group. And it was all the folks from the user group came to the event and were like, hey, we run a user group. And everybody was like, oh, cool. And so it was this great moment of like the user group folks and the folks who are putting on the Community Days Phoenix, all, with everything that's been going on in the world, it's like people have changed. There's lots of people who've been running things like forever, but then people start something new. And so it was amazing because everybody was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And so then what happened is we were like, well, wait a minute, could we figure out how to use this office for the user group as well once a month? And what ended up happening is that user group, we talked to the building and the Microsoft front desk person. Oh, by the way, as you all know, anybody who runs anything, who sits at a front desk of anything, they run the show, right? Like, be nice to them, bring them thank you gifts, because if you become buddies with them, they will help you do anything. And this is just a life lesson, okay? But anyway, but what was cool is that we figured out, hey, you know what? Actually, there's this really great conference room downstairs that is the buildings, right? This building, because they're renting space too. Well, they were like, you can totally use our conference room once a month. Yeah, absolutely. We didn't have to involve the Microsoft person anymore. We didn't have to have all that stuff. So they can actually do that in that building, I believe, once a month. And it's not connected to having me make a request and do all of that kind of stuff. So like, that was a really cool thing. And Hal, I was on and was part of the crew that put that show together, but that was really neat too. So anyway, serendipity and fun. But anywho, yeah, keep them coming in the chat, folks. And I will make sure and take all of these and post these tidbits as well. So go ahead, Wes. Anyway.
I love Russ's point here that some restaurants and bars will let you use their facilities if you buy food and drink.
Yep.
That's an awesome way to, especially for a smaller group. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And co-working spaces.
Yep.
Yeah. Who else has space? Your library. Libraries have
absolutely
space.
And there's so many, like, I don't know about how they're going around the rest of the country or the rest of the world, but we're kind of in the Midwest. We're rebuilding a lot of libraries right now. So a lot of the new ones are made for this kind of stuff, and it's fantastic.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I agree. We just talked about a library in Arapahoe, Colorado, that has done all kinds of stuff with Copilot and Teams and everything else. And so they've been retrofitting their own library too. So there's like a library renaissance. I think, some places they're trying to they're really trying to, it's a community staple, right? It's a heart,
they're proud of it.
Yeah, of your community. So it's really exciting. And a lot of them will have a community room potentially that you can rent as well. So anyway.
Lots of good points out here too. Yep.
Yeah. Totally.
Hotels as well. Hotels are interesting because some of them are hotels / conference centers. So there's pros and cons there, right? As soon as you're made to host conferences, then they want to charge for conferences, but at the same time, they're also set up fantastic. So those are all really good things. Let's kind of hash through some of the other points here, and then we can come back and kind of loop through some other stuff.
Yep.
Because I really want to. I guess the other slide. I don't have a ton of slides. They're really just kind of talking points for us. But I want to bring them up because they're things that maybe if you're doing it for the first time, you're not thinking of all of the details. So I want to throw some of those things out there. And Heather kind of got into this a little bit too, which is sometimes there are things that are included as part of that venue and things that aren't. So you need to be thinking about what are all the things that you're going to need to make sure that they're covered one way or the other, regardless of whether or not you're paying for them, right? So some really quick ones are additional costs is when they're setting up tables and the covers that come with those tables. These are things where they can get super nitpicked, right? You might get charged per table, you might get charged per cover, again, there's so many it depends that are wrapped in here, but those are things you want to keep in mind. Sponsor space is another one. That's one where my local Microsoft office, again, has a great conference room, great for user groups. It's kind of terrible for sponsors. There's just not there isn't a good space for an event to have sponsors spread out and have their booths and have their presence there. We make it work. We kind of jam them in there, and it works okay. But that's something to look at as well when you're going in there and looking at the space. Kind of envision the flow of people coming through there, and making sure that you've got room for your sponsors to have the space they need, to have conversations that they need to have. That's what makes it valuable for them. So those are things to kind of get into. Internet connectivity might be something where they offer some sort of low level for free, and you might need to upgrade it to get the stuff that speakers need when they're doing their sessions. And that's something where, again, this is one of those sliding scales. If you tried to pay for internet access at a convention center, we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars for that type of thing. But you want to make sure that you have in those classrooms or in the spaces where you're doing your presentations, you've got projectors and screens and microphones and all the things you need for the logistics of those sessions. Something that is frequently overlooked or can easily be overlooked is signage, which is, getting anything from, hey, can I hang stuff on the walls? Some places don't like that. Some places are okay with it. To, buying or renting easels so that you can get signs to say, which rooms do we have people in? How do I get there from one room to another? A nice, easy flow and making things easy for folks to find sessions makes for a really smooth day if you can get all that stuff sorted out. So they seem nitpicky and they're small, but they're important, right? Like the place that we've been using lately, we've got it on 2 floors. So we had to make sure that people knew where the stairways were, right? So it's, how do I where's this room? How do I get there, right? Show a map at the beginning of the day. But we spend a lot of time in our event. All of our, we've got, I don't know, depends on the event, 5 to 8 people that are part of our committee from, time to time. When the event's actually happening, the majority of our day, we're standing around in different places, pointing people in different directions. Like that's our main job. When we're not opening or closing the event, we're giving directions. So these are all little things that you can think about. All right, what do we got in the next one? Do we have any questions? No hands up. All right. Insurance is another one. So this is, yes, Russ. Russ is on board with the signage is important. Excellent. Insurance. So I wish I could speak to more on this, but I have someone in my group that does it for me. So you are going to need, Heather brought this up, you are going to need insurance. The event space or the venue that you're using they're used to this, so make sure that you ask them if they haven't offered it, but I find that most of them get it out there pretty quick. They will have requirements for what you need to fulfill to use their venue. So you can take those requirements directly to your insurance provider. The way that we first did it is I basically asked my personal insurance provider, right? So for home and auto and whatever, I just said, hey, I'm doing an event. Can you point me in the direction of where I should look for event insurance? That's their industry. So they pointed me at 2 or 3 different people, and that's kind of what started us down our path. But the other thing that I want to point out, like I said, this isn't my expertise. And if this is something that you want to dig into, let us know and we'll find people that can get answers for you. But one thing that we did learn that jumped out for me at least is ask about what factors affect pricing. It's easy to say the number of people, but there are different things where we found out if we were going to have a second event in the same year or 2 or 3 events over the course of a few years, we could purchase that insurance one time, and it made the per event rate significantly lower.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you're buying insurance for one event, it's very expensive. It can be expensive. If you buy it for 2 or 3 events at the same time, it drops it considerably. So something to note. And there might be other factors too. But work with your the people you're talking to, ask them what those factors are, because that might be something that you can work with.
Yeah. So like dealing with it here in LA, there's the office, the Microsoft office, and then it's, a lot of these are housed, like they're rentals or the building owner, property owner, right? So the event insurance for the LA event had to have it's called the reserve, which is the office. And then it had to mention the Microsoft offices. And then, Wes, how'd you get that cool like thing around do you see that? You like have this like disco like thing around your picture. Anyway,
I do.
Yeah. I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's interpolating, or it's doing something.
Interpreting for others. Okay.
It's just my shiny head.
No, what's your unicorn disco frame? Okay, that was fun. Yeah, I got it. Translation AI. Cool. Okay. But anyway, the other thing is that so it was like the building, the property manager, and then the other thing is that so we have to rent tables and chairs for sponsors because they don't have them at the facility, so we have to bring them in from a rental company, right? So anybody that walks in that's a third party bringing stuff, unless it's like an approved caterer that is approved building, you have to have them have a proof of insurance, and they need to be listed on the insurance. So we had like Parlani Rentals or whatever had to be on the insurance. And then we brought one other thing in, that some sort of equipment, and they had to be on it because they want to make sure that anybody that steps on the property, they slip and fall or whatever, they're covered by whatever the insurance is for the event. So there's some nuance to insurance for sure. So when you're dealing with a Microsoft Office or whatever else, really make sure that you're asking those questions if they don't automatically cover you. Like I was saying, what Ben was saying, somebody was saying about the Baltic event where you were covered. For Baltic Summit. Like sometimes a venue will cover you, but you definitely need to ask those questions because insurance also can take a day or two to get because it's like a broker. So, if you don't do it about a week, like I would say 2 weeks ahead of time for sure, get your insurance lined up and done so that you don't have to worry about that because by that time you'll know your rentals, your third parties, all that kind of thing. But if you don't get it and you have to do it quickly, sometimes it's tough. So There you go. Cool. All right.
And it kind of leads into, I think, what our topic for next month is, which is when you build your committee. And the reason I'm kind of like not good to talk about this topic is I have a guy that does this, right? So one of the guys on our committee handles all of our legal stuff, handles all the checks. He just does all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't worry about it, right? I know it has to happen and I pay attention to it, but anyways, so that's just something to think about. If you can offload this to someone who, one, is interested in it, and two, is good at it, or at least has the tools to facilitate that for you, definitely leverage that, because that's not something I or Sarah want to worry about when we're running the event, right? We want to care about the people and the sponsors and the speakers and the attendees. So, all right. Right sizing. So this has a couple of different interpretations. Some of it is just makes sense, right? Make sure you've got the number of rooms you need and the capacity of the rooms and the types of rooms you need. So that's pretty straightforward. It does take you'll run into it from time to time. I'm in conversations right now with our venue, with our potential venue, with our probable venue, to make sure that we've got the right rooms, right? And someone was mentioning in the chat with a school, classes get first dibs, right? So that's where I'm going back and forth with them right now. Is I've got my list of rooms that I used last time, and I said, can we have these same rooms? And we're kind of going back and forth to make sure we've got the right list of rooms. So that's a pretty easy one to think about. You want to look at the venue in general, right? So Heather's mentioned this with some of the Microsoft events. How many folks can the venue support? And that's not just attendees. That's also, you've got 2 to 4 people from each sponsor that are going to want to be there. You've got speakers, you've got other support folks. So that falls into that as well. How many sessions does it support, right? So in a Microsoft Office, you'll have 1 or 2 good size rooms. And then after that, they're more like the conference or conference room kind of sizes. That's why I've tended in our events to go towards universities and colleges, because we've got classrooms, right? So those are made for exactly what we're there to do. Are you going to have any labs? Do you need classroom PCs? Don't forget a speaker room, because that's something where you want to make sure that the speakers have a place that's quiet and set aside where they can prepare for their sessions, set their jacket down, that kind of thing. And ask if you have the ability to have a lockable room too, because if you get there to set things up the night before, you want to be able to leave some things there if you can. So those are just easy questions to ask when you're at a venue. Something that I just threw on here this morning is I was thinking about this. This is something we ran into with our last event, which was, as your event matures over time, you might want to consider fewer rooms instead of more rooms. Just because we've had, I showed my schedule from the last one. You can't really see it. Well, I guess you can a little bit. That's a lot of sessions, right? What is it, like 8 rooms? 1, 2, 3. The 8 rooms, 4 time slots in the day. And it's depending on the size of your event. What we found is the event before that, we had 10 rooms. And as we were going around, that was a lot of speakers. And that was awesome, and we had a great coverage of topics. But then the audience sizes started getting smaller, right? Because you spread them out too far. So what we did for the most recent event is we went from 10 rooms to 8 rooms. And basically it made the audience sizes more respectable, which makes your speakers happier. So we're constantly balancing these things. You want to have enough room capacity to make sure that if you've got 250 people there during your day, you've got enough rooms to spread them out and have them all out there. But you also might at some point want to go the other direction. So random thing I just thought I'd mention is, I don't know who's having that issue, but I just figured it was an interesting one that I wanted to bring up. Any thoughts? Lots of comments out here. Let's see.
I cannot believe that I've searched every chat, Copilot, web. I cannot find a list of the Microsoft offices in the United States. I'm not kidding. I was like, where is it? So folks, I'm going to go figure it out. And I found the website. I think they're just missing a link. So I'm going to go, I don't know who I'm going to go talk to, but I'm going to go figure it out and post it up for us. I can't believe that. I was like, where is this? Anyway, that was fun. Okay.
That's awesome.
Maybe you should use Google. Just
oh my
Google
God.
Oh.
Well, I'm on Edge and I'm using Bing, and I asked Copilot and I asked a couple other things. And yeah, I think there should be a link right here, but it's missing. So, I mean, I can see the page where it should be, but yeah. Wild.
All right. Let's go to the next one.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
I will get that for everybody.
These are the challenges that we face day to day.
Oh.
All right. Other things to think about. Food. This one pops up. So traditionally, when we run events here, our 2 biggest costs are the venue and the food. Usually it's the other way around. Usually it's the food and then the venue. So really big important ones with the venue is some of them require you to use their food service. Some of them allow food in, outside food in, some of them don't. So these are very, very early conversations that you want to have with your potential vendors or venues, and figuring out where, which ones are going to work for you and which ones aren't. Some folks, again, because it is one of the biggest costs, people will say, we're not going to provide food. So in that case, you want to make sure that you've got availability of offsite options. Can people go out and come back? That's a tough call. What we've seen with a lot of our audiences is that they leave campus, they're not coming back. That used to be, it was worse on weekends, right? Because it was an excuse. So once you were gone, why would I go? It's interesting, but you're halfway out the door, so you might as well keep going. So that's something you want to keep in mind as well. So that's one of the reasons that we've, I think, always had food for our events, is that we want to keep the people there. And that's for the sponsors too. If sponsors are spending the money to have an event, you want to keep their audience around. So these are things that you want to keep track of. if the food was awful, was the event good? You know what? The food is almost always the number one feedback, right? So it's
room temperature.
all, yes. So it's definitely a challenge. It's right in front of you every single time. So our current challenge is that I think we used to do box lunches. Well, I should say we got to the point where we were doing box lunches, which are nice but expensive.
Mm-hmm.
When we came back from COVID, we reverted back to let's just do the pizza thing because it's, cost per person was a lot easier. Our pizza vendor was not really good at bringing everything all at the same time. So we're having, but everyone's there at the same time. So anyways,
right.
These are challenges
for folks with like food allergies or dietary restrictions, right? So like that's something when you're doing food, like what are you providing, and there's certain things that, I think with when I'm working on an event that we're sponsoring or working with folks, there's things that we have to do that we're required to do as Microsoft. But then, having that's important too, and pizza isn't always a good one for gluten and those sorts of things. So, yeah.
Yeah. And we've done it long enough. We've gotten pretty good at that. So we've got all the options for all the people too, but then we have to guard them because everyone else sees a different option and says, "Oh, I'm just going to grab that," but it's for specific people. Anyways, food is another whole topic. When it comes to a venue, the starting points are: do they offer food? Are you forced to use their food? What's the cost of the food? So these are all really big ones. After that, it starts to get more back to your logistical things, right? So where do they have sufficient parking? How much does it cost? Is it free? We've got my particular audience is very chintzy on things like this. And when we moved from one venue where it was free to another venue where it wasn't free, we heard that loud and clear. So those are things to keep in mind. Transit convenience. Is your venue on a bus line? Does it have light rail? Does Uber serve it? All of these fun things that you want to keep in mind. Heather's mentioned this. I've mentioned it. Staffing becomes part of your conversation as well. We needed to make sure our event was done by 3:15, 4:15, whatever it was. There was a time where it had to end because that's when staffing ended, right? So those are things that most of the time your venue is going to bring that up in conversation, but that's something to keep in mind. Do you need to pay for IT to be there to make sure your room logistics work, right? The projectors and all that fun stuff. That's also another good staffing thing that you can think of as well. If you've got one or two people that you're comfortable with being able to run around and make sure everyone's rooms are working for the speakers, that's a great assignment there too. Then you don't need to leverage the venue people for that as much. Getting into an event pre-setup. For our event, we always ask to be able to get in for an hour or two the night before to get in there and set things up. And we put a big schedule on the wall. We build a schedule on the wall for folks, so that takes a few minutes. And we get our signage up. We've kind of gone away from the handing things out to attendees. That just got to be kind of a burden and that kind of type of thing. The night before used to be bag stuffing, which was always fun. Did Heather find it?
Sorry, I did the Wayback Machine. Apologies if I butchered your name. What is your name?
Who is it?
Bipin. Awesome. Thank you, Bipin. Yeah. So the Wayback, I always forget about the Wayback Machine. So yeah, as of, oh my gosh, it's like a year ago, but, or two, but I did find it here. Let me put this up. And I bet I don't know if let's see if you can get it from that, but I did find it. And it probably is incorrect because I think things have changed and closed, but at least that'll get us to the, anyway, sorry, I got excited. So sorry to interrupt you, Wes. I was like, oh my gosh.
It was all good. No, it was at a perfect time. I'm like, oh, she's animated.
I know. I was like, I found it. Okay. Yeah. I wonder if these pages might not be updated. Anyway, I'm determined. I will figure this out and I will find it. So, but I want to say a couple of things about the other considerations too, is that Parking. That was something, and I'll relate it back to experiences in Phoenix and here recent, because I worked on both of those with the teams, is that, parking is $20 here in LA. So they were like, well, you can, pay for it. You can pay, you can get it so that your people pay nothing. So you pay for the parking, or you can do a $10 discounted coupon. So there were options, but the organizers in our budget, we still decided to pay. I think we did the $10 deal. But yeah, you can choose to do that too. So that's something also that, it's interesting. Things like parking will deter people, because people think certain things should be free, and so, and the other thing is that if you surprise people and you don't put that there's a fee for parking in the event information, a lot of times people can get really upset because then they don't realize it, because people assume that that's free. And so that's also just a point of fact to make sure that there are any fees, especially with parking, that you're going to have at your venue or an event. Definitely just make sure you put that in the information when you're putting it out there. So
yeah. I think that falls under the whole setting expectations piece, right? So it's bad if it's already a bummer you have to pay for it, but it's even more of a bummer if you didn't know you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And that goes for a lot of stuff, right? You want to set those expectations. Someone was that Russ again? I think it was. Made a comment out there that made me think of another whole slide that we could have put on there, right? So setup considerations. Setting up your registry. Oh, it was about handing out maps where the vendors were. But it brings up a great topic, which is I said setup considerations. I was just working with the vendor last week, and he was surprised that I didn't want to use their lobby for setting up our registration. And the reason was I wanted to do my registration. I always do a registration right by our vendors. That way they have to come all the way in and get there and register there. And they see where the vendors are. They immediately go talk to the vendors.
Yeah.
So that, it's things like it's getting your attendees into your vendor area. Food, Heather alluded to this earlier, food setup is really important because you want to make it available to everybody. You want it to go quickly and smoothly. So think about how you're laying that out. And we've alluded to this a little bit on some of the other topics, is if you have options for laying out for your rooms, when you're picking what rooms you're using and how you're using them, the more intuitive and easy for your attendees to find the rooms and figure out where they need to be, the better. And that comes down to maps and signage. As easy as it is for us nowadays with all the digital tools in our phones to just say, oh, your schedule's on there, we're not going to print it out, we're not going to do this. We always have hard copies of the schedule and maps. Those are the two things that we have not given up on, and I'd be hard pressed to give up on. Partially because it's an excuse to get them into the registration area and to talk to vendors, and partially because I just want that stuff to go so smoothly. Even if I waste a bunch of paper, but I have the people that need to have them in their hands happy, then that makes for a happy attendee. So lots of little things like that now we're starting to skew off of the venue a little bit, but it's how we use the venue, right? So
yeah, for sure. I also put this slide up too. This is another offering that we have for community social. So we have the Microsoft Community LinkedIn channel. And if you aren't already following that, I will put the link in the chat, but that's where we put up a ton of information about what's going on in the community. When something is, we O&O, we own and operate. And so that channel has about 20,000 people, 21,000 people on it. So if you want to put in a request for a social post to help amplify your event, we have a service level agreement of 3 business days. There's someone on my team that works through these. I have access to all of it too. But we also put things out on the Microsoft MSFT adoption Twitter handle as well. We also, I believe there's a new checkbox about getting mentioned on Mondays at Microsoft, the show that I do. every other Monday with Caruana at 8 a.m. So yeah, definitely, there's some people that definitely take advantage of this and use it all the time. I try to make sure people know about it, but if for the most part, we do review everything before we put it up. But I'm happy to, yeah, you can absolutely use it for Baltic Summit for sure. Yep, absolutely. Any event that's listed on the communitydays.org site is welcome to use our amplification tools. Yep. The other thing I was thinking about, I saw that there was a post for Community Days Poland, I think, that popped up on the Microsoft Tech community, and I was like, ooh, and I was thinking, I was like, I got to look that up because I want to figure out and make sure that people that want to have their listings up on the Microsoft Tech community, which I think is a great idea, that everybody could get permissions to do that. So I'm working through that right now too. So
yeah, I can give you some contacts because we have found some contacts.
Yeah, I know. I was like, who did that? I was like, cool.
Yeah. We have some, ways.
I know. I was like, who did you talk to? Who did that for you?
Yeah. I will tell you later.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. Funny. I was like, huh. I was like, look at that. And people are probably like, what is she talking about? Let me find the link here.
Two things I'll throw out there while you're doing that. Lots of great chats on food. Food trucks are definitely on my list of things I'm trying to figure out how to do for our event. Because if we can find the right ones and have them just list, right outside, then people aren't leaving, and it just simplifies a lot of stuff. So that's something to definitely look at for your attendees. The other one is Russ brought up the agenda can be a poster. We took that to another level. So I wish I should have brought the photo with me. I've got one with Rackley standing in front of it. But we build a giant agenda on our wall where we have basically one sheet of paper per session. And it's got a paper with who's the basics, who's teaching it, what the topic is. That's usually it. But then we arrange them by rows and columns into this giant schedule by time slot and room. So that's something we do every single time, and people really appreciate it because you can have a crowd of people standing in front of it and figuring out where they want to go. I love that one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Y'all, we do pay attention and read your feedback about these meetings that we're having, and for me to continue to keep doing them, I always like to be like, we had so many people come and they had all kinds of things to say and they really like these. If you wouldn't mind giving us a little feedback with either the QR code or the link, I'll put that in the chat here in a sec. That would be amazing. And yeah, this was lots of really great information in the chat too, folks. Thank you for sharing with each other. I mean, that's one of the best ways we all learn, right? Is actually from each other and people who put on events like this all the time. So for sure. What's next time? We only got 2 minutes left. Is this
I thought it was building a committee, or maybe yeah. I think somehow our dates and topics got off kilter one shot.
Is it this one or is it this one? There's 2 slides.
That's the general one. Oh.
Yeah. So this was committee roles and responsibilities.
Yes.
Is that the next one? Okay, cool. All right. Awesome. We'll get rid of this slide and the other slide. Although I really like that picture of you. Q&A with Wes. We'll have to combine those. Okay. So
I did steal that. I have that now.
Oh, nice. Coming up in May, committee roles and responsibilities, speaker selection, communications planning. So those are the next ones that are coming up for sure. So
lots of good stuff.
Do that. Yeah. And then we also have our general sessions. A lot of you who are speakers are on. So thank you for being speakers. I am looking for a May. I got to go look at the form and see if anybody's filled out. I think I might have somebody for May for us. But Tim is going to come up in June. In July, we've got full, but I need a speaker for May. And if you're interested in becoming a speaker, you can easily do that by filling out this form. You don't have to be a board member or a regional lead. You can be a wonderful member of MGCI. But if you want to sign up to present something you're passionate about, please put that in the form, and then know that we have the MGCI Community Hub up on the Microsoft Tech Community, and that's where that Collab Days Poland got up there, which is awesome. But you can go check that out as well. Let's see if there's anything else in here. And join us Mondays Microsoft with me and Caruana on our LinkedIn channel and on our YouTube. So
thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, y'all. Thanks for coming, and appreciate all of the chat, and we'll get this posted up and get some notes as well. So awesome.
If you have questions, follow up, and we hope to see you next time.
Absolutely. Cool.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Take care. All right.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.